Hi, I'm Jennifer Hunt and I'm interviewing Pauleena Mcnabb about her experience with ovarian cancer. She was diagnosed in November 2012 and we're just going to talk about her experience. How were you feeling before you went to the doctor?
Well, the reason I actually went to the doctor was because we found a lump in my side. So it felt like a tennis ball, it was very unusual, and for a couple of days I just thought, oh, what's that? So I wasn't really in any pain, it was just there was an unusual lump. So I went off to my GP who sent me for a scan.
Yeah.
And the scan indicated that it was actually 9 by 9 centimetres sitting on my ovary.
Oh my god.
So I was like, oh, okay, rather big. So from there, we then went to see a private gynaecologist because they kind of said, oh, we'll send you to the hospital, but that could be weeks away. And because it was so large, it was a little bit concerning. I still wasn't in any pain or anything like that. And that gynaecologist said she would be taking it out tomorrow if it was.
Oh wow.
So finally we got an appointment with a gynaecologist at the Mater Hospital, and so that was probably about 2.5 weeks later. And so we went in, and by then we'd started to notice that I started to look fatter, that my tummy had actually started to have a lot of bloating. And so we sat with him and he was very vague and just kind of said it obviously needs to come out. Anything bigger than 7 centimetres they said they remove. So women have cysts all the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just naturally go away, but because it was a bit bigger. But he said even though they'd had a blood test and we'd seen the results of those blood tests and the indicator for ovarian cancer, which is CA125, was quite high, he said, you know, you're young, you don't have any history, we're not concerned about ovarian cancer at all. So we actually kind of went home feeling pretty good. And we had a date for the operation, which was going to be about 5 weeks' time away. So it was like, oh, okay. In that time, I got fatter and fatter though, and it was actually starting to be quite painful, to the point where on October the 31st, I went to emergency in Mater because I couldn't go to the toilet properly, I was in so much pain that I had to brace the wall.
So what sort of pain was it? Sort of like period pain?
Yes, and a bit like labour pain as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was kind of, you had to brace and it would kind of come and go. And by then I think I looked about 4 months pregnant as well, you know, really ballooned out. So we went in there honestly expecting they were going to take it out straight away. That's what we were really hoping.
And they still didn't?
They still didn't, and I stayed in overnight, and the oncologist came the next morning, and they were really quite harsh with me actually. They said, you know, they don't even think this is cancer, so you'll just have to kind of suck it up, and we'll see you again on your appointment on the 20th of November. And I remember bursting into tears because I said, I can't go to work, I can't walk to the toilet, like I was in that much pain. And you know, and they said, you know, we're dealing with people with cancer here, indicating that I didn't have it. So again, it's like, well, but I'm in pain. And
yeah.
So thankfully, about an hour later, they came back and they actually said, well, look, somebody's cancelled, so you can come next week and we'll remove it. Good. So I only had a week to wait, so fantastic. So in that time again, bigger, more pain.
Even though that first gynecologist was like, you should take it out tomorrow.
And she was private, see, this was public, so very different. I guess you just sit on the waiting list in the public system.
Yeah.
So finally we went in on the 6th when the lady had cancelled, and you know, you go in and it was just keyhole surgery, so they just took one ovary and the cyst.
Yeah.
And by that time, that was 5 weeks after my first scan, the cyst was 13 centimetres, so it had doubled in size. And then they came in the next morning all smiling and saying, oh yes, you do have ovarian cancer, we'll see you in, you know, 2 weeks and we're taking everything. And off they go again on their round. So it was really confronting because we were pushing because we just felt like there was something wrong, and we felt like they just kept putting it on the back burner. You're young, there's no history in your family, you know, this won't be anything sinister, and it was.
Wow. Oh my gosh, so really it was you sort of initiating, there's something wrong, like you guys aren't taking notice, you know, which is horrible. It needs to be.
It is scary because not many people go to the doctor unless you really feel like something's wrong.
Yes.
And because my husband's a nurse, he would look at the results. And so with that CA125, apparently that can be elevated during a woman's menstrual cycle.
Okay.
So they said that's probably why yours is high. You know,
At the time where you menstruated.
I think I'd just come out or something like that, and they said, oh, that's probably just linked to that.
Yeah.
But of course I Googled.
Yeah.
And we noticed that some ladies with ovarian cancer, their CA125 level was 70. I think a normal woman's is about 7 or 8. So theirs was 70. Well, mine was 400.
My gosh. Yeah.
So we were like, that is
extreme.
So we were thinking, how come they're not connecting those dots? In our mind, we had already connected those dots.
Yes.
But
good. It's good that you did your own research as well and kept pushing. Because otherwise, if you didn't if you didn't say anything, they would have been like, yeah, you're fine. And you would have just gone home and been like, oh, I'm fine.
Well, that's what I'm amazed. Even sitting in emergency in extreme pain, and they're still saying, oh, you'll be fine, go home and, you know, wait another 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then thankfully someone cancelled and I got in.
Oh my gosh. Cool. So, how did this impact your family?
It was, I felt like my husband and I had an idea. So we were a little bit more prepared for that news. Telling the kids was a little bit tricky. We kind of just told them everything they needed to know at each stage. And then we introduced the C word, the cancer word, and that was a bit tricky.
So how old are your kids?
I have 2 boys, 8 and 5. And so for the 5-year-old, he's not as aware of what that means.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's cool that I have no hair, he loves it. The 8-year-old's a little bit more internalises it, and so he has asked me, he read a booklet that I had about ovarian cancer, and he said, oh, it says here 800 women a year lose the battle, so you're going to die. So that was an interesting conversation. I said most of those women are over 60. You know, the young women, we tend to, I said, we'll get it, and, you know, we'll cure it and we'll be on and we'll be fine. So having those conversations is pretty hard. I think it's hard for mum as well, you know, and you have your sister and your brother, and so it's just, you just have to go through it together and be as strong as you can for them. I don't like seeing them upset, so I try and stay really strong and positive.
Cool. So what treatments were you recommended?
They didn't actually recommend anything, they told me what would happen. So after they came in and told me I had ovarian cancer, they said once I'd healed from the hysterectomy, then I would come in and they would tell me what the chemotherapy treatment was going to be. So they're hitting me pretty hard, and they said I'm young and, you know, you're fit enough, you can handle it. So they didn't offer any options. It's just this is what it will be.
Okay. And you didn't research after that, or you just were happy to go along with that?
Yeah, no, I didn't research. I think I was afraid of what I might read about the outcomes. I do know a few people who don't have ovarian cancer, have other types, and are taking the natural road. You know, clean eating, getting rid of their microwave, but I kind of feel like if they've come up with something, as horrible as the process is, there are people who've gone through it and have, you know, the cancer's completely gone and have come out and lived another 25 years, so I'm going to take it.
Well, you know, you could do a combination of both. Do both and then do the natural, I suppose, as you're coming out.
Well, we certainly have cleaned up our eating, even for the boys now, I think, you know, and the microwave, it's like, right, I'm not cooking anything in the microwave because it kind of changes the process of the food, and so it's certainly influenced us as well.
Oh, good. So, how long are you still in treatment?
So we're halfway, exactly halfway.
Yeah.
So we've had 3 cycles, and I have a 3-week cycle, and then I have the chemo on a Monday, Tuesday, and then have a couple of days off, then on the Monday again. That first week is pretty horrific.
Yes. So what happens in the first week?
So in that, I actually have a port that the chemo goes straight into, so it actually goes straight into my tummy. So when I leave, I look 4 months pregnant again, because they fill you with liquid and the actual chemo and other nutrients to kind of help your tummy cope with that. And it does give you some pain, muscle pain, some jaw pain, things like that. But the most overwhelming feeling is just that you really feel foggy and you just feel completely out of it.
Yeah.
Really hard to follow a conversation during that week, and you just really need to be sitting and resting. And I'm finding the baths are fantastic.
Yeah.
Just lying in a bath, kind of relaxing, and you don't have to focus on anything. And then the following Monday I go back for more chemo, and it's not as bad just having the one.
Yeah.
Just have a little bit of tiredness, and again I have a bit of, you know, that kind of uncomfortable feeling. And then I have a really good week, so I don't go for chemo at all this week, and it's my good week. I get out, I do lots of fun stuff.
Good.
And then get ready to start again.
Cool. Okay, so how do you feel today?
So today I feel great. I feel really good. I don't have, I'm not taking any pain meds or anything like that. And having this week is really good because you get strong enough to go back again next week.
Yeah.
And so you feel really positive. And in that week where it's awful, you think, oh, what am I doing this to my body for? I don't want to go back for more. But then you have a week where you feel strong and you think, I can do this. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there anything that you would like to put out there to anybody?
I think knowing what the symptoms are, we hear a lot about breast cancer and cervical cancer now, and there's, vaccines and there's lots of tests, and for ovarian cancer there's not a lot. So I think knowing what the symptoms are, I think women talking about it, and even knowing, your own menstrual cycle and what's normal and what's not normal, and not being afraid to go to your GP and just say, I'm just not feeling 100%. And when I look back on last year, when I look at the symptoms, I couldn't say I had those symptoms, but I certainly was sleeping a lot more. I was taking naps on the weekend, and my husband kept saying, well, you're a nana, just things that just weren't 100% right. And now we can connect them all and see what it was. But I think just talking to people about what's going on inside your body and not being afraid of that. Yeah. And if you think there's something wrong, just have a chat with your GP, and hopefully they'll be on board with some tests and go from there.
This month it's February and it's Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. So to help spread awareness, please buy a teal ribbon.